Welcome to the Photography and Video Show. My name's Alex Millichamp. I'm a London-based videographer and photographer, and today I'm going to be talking about creating on the move. Alright guys, welcome to my session. First of all, before we get started, I just wanted to wish you all well. Hope you're all well at these times. Obviously a lot going on in the world at the moment, so I hope you're all healthy and happy. Even though most of us are in a lockdown at the moment, this is a perfect opportunity to make the most of this event. This is obviously a great platform to be a part of, so I'm very humbled to be here and talking to you guys. So I've tried to make this session as diverse as I can to appeal to all the different people within the industry. So whether you're a professional, a semi-professional, a hobbyist, or you're literally just picking up a camera, hopefully there's something that everyone can take from this session. So for those of you who are beginners, I'm not going to be touching too much on the technical sides of sort of the camera and aperture, shutter speed, all this stuff. So hopefully you're all kind of to speed with things like that. We're going to be talking more about the kind of mindset of being a videographer and what it's like to be creating video content in today's market. And for those of you who are professionals, hopefully you can gain something from hearing a different kind of mindset or a different kind of approach, and you can apply that to your own company or your own social endeavors. I'm going to share my top tips with you guys and how I've learned from my past experience to approach this sort of method that I use when faced with creating fast professional content, whether it's for a client or for myself personally. But before we dive into the session fully, I just wanted to take a couple of minutes, introduce myself a little bit better, how I got to where I am now, a little bit about my past and, my passion for videography. So I actually got my start in the videography and photography industry by, first of all, appearing on this side of the camera as you see me now. I was a professional dancer. I trained professionally at Northern Ballet School and Elmhurst School of Dance. Two very prestigious dance colleges. I trained there for 3 years, and then I went on to be a professional dancer for 5 years. Worked with companies like English National Ballet on some of their tours, and I went on to working on cruise ships where I was a dancer in the shows, performing sort of night after night out at sea. And this is where I learned, first of all, to be a creative. Being a dancer, naturally you have to be very creative in things that you do, and that's something that I've obviously brought very heavily into my photography and videography. And I did this for a couple of years, 2 to 3 years, and whilst I was out traveling and going around places like Australia, New Zealand, I decided to pick up a camera, start documenting my travels mainly through photography, and just sort of document and capture as much as I could of all these really fun and exotic places that I was going. And I just slowly became more and more connected to it, and in a way my dancing became less important to me, and I kind of slowly transitioned. I remember thinking, what if I was to give photography a go as a profession, and obviously I had no idea at that time. I'd not trained in anything like this, not trained in film school or anything like that. So here's a little pointer: if you're thinking about going to film school or something like that, it's it's not necessarily something you have to do. Most of my friends and who are videographers for a living didn't train in this. They they're creative at heart, and that's where the passions come from, and it's become a profession. I always think back to picking up that camera the first time and what it made me feel. It's become less about the movement that I was doing and more about capturing that movement, not just of myself anymore, but of others, and that's why I do it. So I actually grew up in Bristol, hence the Bristol twang you're probably hearing. Moved into London 2 years ago actually, and been living here running a video production company with which I co-direct with my primary school friend, Connor Foley. So the two of us run a video production company here in London, which specializes in work with corporate clients, music video clients, labels, basically anyone who needs content, we find a way to cover that. But that's where I'm currently at now. So after making that leap, been doing this professionally now for 4 years, running this video production company called Foley and the Champ. Alongside that, we also run another company called Rolling Pictures, which specialize in wedding photography and videography. And alongside those two things, as if I wasn't busy enough already, I have my own personal brand called Shot by Champ. I managed to grow that platform now across various social platforms to about 80k. Anyway, you guys didn't tune in here to listen to me just talk about myself. Let's dive into what I have planned and prepared to talk to you guys about, and hopefully you learn from and take away from. So creating on the move, what do I mean by that? Because you can say that creating on the move is everything. Whenever you're creating something, you're always going to shoot it or coming back from shooting it. So Yes, all content is being created on the move, I guess you could say. But mainly what that title means is the way videography is today, everything is quick. You know, there's so many different social channels, so many different people creating stuff that it's hard to get out and above that kind of noise and have your voice heard as a creator, that you really have to try and keep up with that. And whilst we wished we had, you know, ultimate time to pre-plan your shoot, all the time in the world on set, you know, hours in the edit, days in the edit, months in the edit, it's not always the case. So you need to become versatile with that and work out how you can create on the move, how you can create fast content to high quality. Broken this down into kind of 3 sections. So there's 3 sections in video production, photography, anything creative that kind of take place. So I've broken it down into 3 sections. They're quite easy to understand and work out. In fact, they're already majorly used. I didn't coin these. You know, they're already out there. They already exist. So pre-production, production, and post-production. So for those of you who don't quite understand that or know what that is, pre-production is basically, you know, coming up with the idea, writing it down. Production is, you know, bringing that to life, whether it's, you know, with a camera, as a photo, video, and then post-production is, you know, bringing that out of the camera onto a computer, you know, onto the web or wherever you're going to distribute it, and everything that you do in the edit suite. Okay, so they're the 3 kind of stages. So pre-production. Pre-production is something that we wish we all had endless amounts of time on. You know, a lot of the time, the more pre-production you have, of course, it makes sense that the better the overall quality and idea is going to be. But when we're creating fast content, either as a business or individually, and you need to get it out for your client's sake or to, you know, keep up with the latest trend and, you know, gain those views on what you're creating, you don't have time. You need to just create that content fast. So you need to run with the idea. So that idea that comes into your head, you run with it. You don't second guess it, which, you know, a lot of the time in pre-production, that is what you do. You sit down and go, oh, but what about this? What about that? What about this? But that pre-production stage of, here's my idea, we're running with it, we're already shooting. Next thing you know, you're already editing it and it's already out. And then before you know it, you're working on the next one. And so it might feel like a negative thing that you're not putting in the pre-production you think you might need, but sometimes some of the best work comes from having that idea and just running with it, not thinking about it too much, just going for it. A good example of this is I worked with a band called Road Trip. I was their lead videographer and photographer for 2 years. And whilst creating for them, they needed to create weekly, sometimes daily videos to release to their audience and keep their engagement and keep relevant and keep, you know, their brand growing. So something we did was create music videos. So we created music video. We filmed, me and Connor, who I run my corporate business with, we would film music videos for them. And what they would do is they would take a recent pop song that had just been released into the charts by a successful artist, and they would cover it, and then we would film a music video and we would upload it as close to the original as possible. So when coming up with ideas for the music video to like try and catch on to a viral trend, we wouldn't have time to be like, oh, we could do this, we could do that. Most of the time it would be like, we're already filming, here's an idea to implement in this and run with that. So here's a few examples of some of the stuff we came up with just from basic ideas. In this one, we came up with the idea of films happening inside of a picture frame. And, you know, anything that would happen in this picture frame would be a way to kind of carry the video. In this one, we came up with what if they were cardboard cutouts, and we just ran with that idea. And, you know, the whole video transpires with them being cardboard cutouts. And this one, for example, the concept we came up with was scenes where they look like they shouldn't be. So I think there's a shot where he's in the shower and then we pull out and he's actually outside. So yeah, it's just basic ideas like that we literally came up with those ideas 10 minutes before we started filming, and we pushed ourselves to come up with these ideas and film it and run with it and see what creative processes came out within that time of filming. And a lot of the times they ended up working, but sometimes they obviously didn't. But we learned from those mistakes, and limiting ourselves to just quick fire ideas really pushed our creative sort of process. And for them, it worked perfectly. So creating these fast content pieces actually ended up gaining them over 1.4 million subscribers on their YouTube channel. And I think to date, we filmed over 100 videos with them and they've had over 300 million views. And that's just one example of pre-production, of a fast-paced sort of pre-production and, you know, keeping up with the pace of videography these days. Another example is when recently I did a brand deal with Huawei. and they challenged me to create a video within sort of 24 hours, and I had to turn it around super quick. And we just went out and took their new phone and put it to the test in a creative environment and showed how using their phone you can create content on the move. I'll play the example here.
Good morning, Alex.
That was a quick commission video for Huawei. And one of the steps I use for quick turnaround content is mixing my pre-production stage with my post-production stage as much as possible to save time. If I know the video that I'm creating is going to need like a song, I'll go ahead and find that song straight away. And I will bring it into the editing software before I've even shot anything or gone out and began the shoot. And I will work out exactly how long I need it to be. So if it's, a minute, I will cut that song into a minute, work out what kind of mood it needs to be. Is it happy, sad? What is the aim of this piece? What is it going to try and make the audience feel? I will take that and I will add in text. So I'll just overlay text into each bit of the sections. I'll be like, at this point, we need a shot of this, basically creating a shot list in a video form. So I know what I'm going to need when I'm out shooting. This is something I do really quick. I try not to hold myself back in terms of timing, to be nice and fast on it. Be like, oh, it'd be great to put a hyperlapse here. We know we need that. It'd be great to, have a time lapse there. It would be great to, have a match cut here, and just ideas of shots that I know I'll need. That's how I merge pre-production with post-production and try and, eliminate any hiccups and just make that process as fast as I can, so that as soon as I go out and get the footage, I know exactly what I need, and then as soon as I'm back home and I'm editing it, I already have that cut there that I go, oh, okay, I know where that goes straight away here. So there's no time on the editing when it comes to it being like, oh, what should I put here, what's this clip, what's that clip? I already have that kind of shot list ready in my mind, and I just drag it straight in, and the edit becomes so much easier. Merge those pre-production, production and post-production steps. That was how I was able to create something on such a tight budget, but still to a high quality, to what the clients needed. Production. So this is probably the most fun part of what we do. Production, a lot of the time, a lot of people I speak to, why did you get into videography? Why do you do photography? And they love shooting. They love, that moment of getting the shot, that moment of taking the picture. Unfortunately, it's something we don't actually do a lot. In fact, I read yesterday that only 10% of your career as a videographer or photographer will actually be holding a camera, taking pictures. The rest of it is, sat editing or traveling to the shoots, doing all these things like admin, all these things we have to do to run what we do. But it's worth it for that 10% where you get that photo, get that shot, and that's why we all do it. So some good tips for production and how I kind of slimline what I do production wise when needed. Obviously, if I, same as pre-production, if I have the budget, the time, all these things that allow me to go and do more in-depth stuff, then I'll take what I can. I'll take all the kit I have. I'll bring the Red, which is my go-to camera for big productions and things like that. But as I said, a lot of the time as a production company, most things you'll get, you end up doing is smaller videos, videos for social media, things like that. Know exactly what you're going to need. Know, do I need 1 camera, 2 cameras? What do I need to be filming in? Do I need slow-mo compatibility? Is it all going to be in sort of 24 frames, capturing it all real life motion? And then going into sound, do you need to be able to mic them up? Can you rely on a boom pole, which I'm using here? Knowing all those things and like simplifying that setup and not bringing everything and just think, well, I need to bring all my gear because you never know what I might need. Sure, it's, great to bring extra bits of pieces, safety, backup equipment, all that stuff, but simplify your setup. We challenged ourselves to go and produce a short mockumentary in one day. So we wanted to do it as like an exercise for us as a company, as we draw a lot of inspiration from various mockumentaries and short documentaries, sort of funny skits, things like that. And this was something we wanted to give a go just to see if we had any skills and be able to create in this area. So we tested ourselves to go and make a short mockumentary based on a friend of ours who does parkour. Really challenged ourselves to streamline our equipment. We challenged ourselves to one camera, one lens, and a microphone on them, and just went out into public and filmed this sort of this concept idea, I guess you could call it. And in the end, we were really surprised at how well the whole piece came together, with just on the day coming up with the idea, simplifying our setup on the day, restricting ourselves to that one camera, one microphone sort of setup, and we were really happy with the results we had in the end. In fact, I'll put a little snippet in of what we filmed that day.
If I go a bit further, it'll look better as well. How about that one?
Did that go?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. Because if you do it too well, people will think you're a pro and they'll ask for photos. Like, someone asked me the other day, man. Well, like, I'm at that level, but it's just I don't like the attention, innit? Like, it's too much.
What kind of thing?
I just like jumping, man. Yeah? Do you want a picture, did you?
I'm running late for work.
Oh,
Okay.
I thought you were asking for a photo or something.
Oh no, I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh, fair. See, that's normal. Like, literally, people just like, they see me jumping and stuff, and they're just like, that's different. Can I get a picture with you? Is that cool?
I'm actually running late for work.
Oh, is it? Oh, no worries, man. That's cool. Yeah, he did say he's running late, so it's cool. Like.
Something also I like to do for production is to concentrate on one thing. So I call it that one thing rule, and think about the reason you wanted to do that. Think back to the idea. Piece that I made quite a while ago, actually using my grandparents. So my grandparents have been married for 66 years. And I saw this as a great opportunity to sit them down and interview them for a video for my wedding company that I co-direct. So we sat them down and just interviewed them. And that one thing I was constantly thinking of was, how is their story going to help future brides to be? And that was the one thing that we constantly just came back to whilst filming and whilst in the edit. So it was very much dependent on the questions that we asked them. So the questions were very much structured around that one sort of concept, like, how is this story going to help, brides want to, obviously, they are getting married, but want to employ a videographer, a photographer at their wedding day to capture their event. And so that was the one thing we focused on and getting that attention, and that actually led to a lot of sales and bookings for us in the long term, and still does. We always get clients say how touching that video is and how their story personally connected with them and made them feel like capturing that wedding day photos and wedding day videography was really important to them.
Would I change anything about him? I don't know that I'm going to answer that.
I wouldn't change anything. I've been very happy.
Have a hug. Oh, hurting your back.
No, not hurting.
Just remember that. Why are you creating this piece of content in the first place? Just keep reminding yourselves that, and everything else will follow. So, the music will follow, the feel, the emotions, the colors that you need to add, all these little things that, when you get into the post, you have to do and add to make that feel. Just think back. So it's something that you carry from pre-production, production, and post-production, is what is that one feel? What is that one thing that I want to get the message across? Post-production. So obviously it's lovely to have, your own office and have a desk that you always come back to and work on in the same sort of environment. But with the idea of getting this content out fast and whilst on the move, you need to be able to adapt to that setting. So you need a laptop. And this is something that I invested in only recently because I was, one of them. No, I always work in my office. This is where I like to work. But having a laptop that has, good editing capabilities is going to speed you up. There's been times where I edit on a train, where I edit on the way back from the shoot. Sometimes if I'm not driving after a shoot, I'll be editing, and by the time I get back, the edit's almost done. So it just makes so much sense to be working on the move. And working in the same sweep, I always find very helpful. So I know not everyone is a massive fan of Adobe, but for me, I edit in Adobe Premiere, and having, you know, access to Photoshop, After Effects, everything in there, which is so interchangeable, it saves so much time in my editing. Another big thing that really speeds me up in post-production is save your footage. Just save everything you've ever shot. So this sounds kind of simple, but it took me a long time to actually making sure I have lots of backups of every past work I've ever done. Especially as a production company, this is something you should definitely be doing. You should never delete a client's work. You should always keep it somewhere, because someday something's going to come up, and, you know, being able to have that for them is always useful. And obviously that's your work, right? So you film that and it's all yours. You can go into any of that. And what I've actually done is created a drive of just effects. So I've created a drive of sound effects, of old video clips, that B-roll. So things that I filmed that I've gone, I could use this in any place. I just put it on a drive and keep it in a space where I know at any point, if I'm like, oh, I need some footage of trees. If I forgot to have got that for whatever reason whilst on the shoot, because I was, you know, busy on the move, I come back and I'm like, oh, need a clip of trees. Here it is in my drive, drag that in, and you're away. And that has saved my ass so many times. I could, more than I care to admit, but that is something that's really important and will speed you up, definitely. Creating a drive just for all those different things that are so useful from project to project. Once you're in the editing sweep, obviously, you know, you've created this idea. If there's any of those extra little flourishes that you can add, I know where this is all about, you know, how to create fast content on the move. But if there is any of those extra little things that you could just chuck in last minute, if you're there like, oh, you know what, this would be great with a voiceover, quickly chuck that in. If you've got time on that editing, maybe you know, the project is ready, and you think, oh, but it would look better with just a few more graphics. If you've got that extra bit of time, chuck it in. Like, these things are only gonna, you know, help push it that little bit further. So that breaks down the three sort of sections that I use and implement when creating my videos. As I said, when I'm creating content fast for clients and, you know, of a quick turnaround, they're the kind of things that I try and implement and use to keep that high quality content, but still deliver it on a fast sort of turnaround. 5 tricks to try. These are 5 things I want you to go away and just give a go in your own time, and try and, you know, utilize these kind of tools to help yourself produce fast quality content. Okay, so number 1 is get used to rocking a one lens setup. And what I mean by that is, as videographers, we have access to loads of different lenses to produce different kind of shots. But have you ever thought about just whacking one lens on a camera and taking that out? So whether it's a prime or, you know, a zoom, so 24 to 105, 70 to 200, or whether you want to really restrict yourself and go out with like a 50mm, 24mm, and try and produce a whole piece of content just by using that one lens. And it really sort of challenges you as a videographer, because obviously there's times where you're like, oh, I really want to get that shot and add that in, but you kind of have to find a way around that. And so, you know, it really disciplines you to getting used to all of the aspects that one lens can offer. Okay, so number 2 is don't be afraid of using a photo within your video edits. There's a recent shoot we were on, and we actually had a problem with a bit of our video kit. We were like, well, what if we were to create some time lapses, you know, some sort of boomerang effects, and throw them in within the edit. And it actually ended up being a really sort of punchy idea, and it's definitely something that, you know, from the back of that I was like, well, why aren't we doing this all the time? You know, stop motion, time lapses, all those sort of things that you can add just by photos, to add that kind of dynamic effect into your video. So don't be afraid of, you know, hiding away from that technique and using that to sort of aid your video in places where it fits. Tip number 3 is produce something different. Say you're a travel vlogger or you shoot high fashion. Obviously, you know, keep that style, don't lose that, because you've obviously, you know, developed a niche there, and that is, you know, who you are as a creator. But a good example of this is I've shot weddings for many years, and I've always kind of kept the same sort of style. And then I had a client come who they wanted a particular thing. And to begin with, I was kind of like, oh, it's not really kind of what we do. But I kind of went with it, and I gave it like the kind of opportunity that it deserved. And in the end, it actually ended up being a really, really unique piece. It was very documentary driven. So normally we would capture this sort of the audio on the day and use that to tell the story of the day. But they wanted sort of beforehand interviews where we would go to their flat and interview them individually, to try and create like a bespoke kind of story for them. And that was a kind of new way of shooting for us as a company. And in the end, the results were amazing, and it's something that we're definitely going to implement in the future to our other sort of other clients. It's something that we really want to lean into, and something that we, you know, maybe shied away from in the past because we were like, no, this is how we do weddings. This is always the way we've done it. And we changed it up and tried something new. And really sort of benefited from the results. So don't be afraid to kind of mix it up a little bit. It might not work, but it might be exactly what you were looking for, to kind of find your niche within your industry, and change up that kind of that need that you needed. That's a lot of needs. So number 4 is story is king, and it is so true. A lot of the time when we're creating this content and we're getting it out quick, we're all guilty of, you know, just relying on nice sort of cinematic shots, just whacking a soundtrack underneath and being like, oh, well, it looks pretty, and that's great. But if you can produce a story to go along with that, then it's going to engage your viewers so much more. It's the reason we all do this anyway. We're not just videographers capturing things, we're storytellers. We're trying to create a story within our work. And that's what people really engage with. Sure, the videography, the nice cinematic shots, all those things are what capture people's attention, but what's going to retain them and get them coming back again and again is adding that story element. And trick number 5, this is more a tip than a trick, and it's pretty easy, and all of you should jump on this straight away because it's something that I definitely recommend as I'm getting older. But get yourself a good camera bag. For years I was like, Amazon Basics, fine, it'll do the job, get me from A to B. But the older you will thank you so much more for getting yourself a nice, high quality, good backpack that's going to obviously protect your gear and protect yourself. All these things that we buy is no good unless we are in a good condition to be using them. So take care of yourself, keep fit, keep active, and get yourself a good camera bag, because your back will thank you. Because I want to just, you know, kind of conclude on what we've talked about, and also just get the other side of what we do as well. A lot of the time there is obviously, you know, a lot of pressure on creators to constantly be coming up with new ideas and be pushing those aspects. And whilst I agree with that, and it's great to be getting out, you know, fresh content weekly, daily, all these things to keep people enticed in your brand and what you do as a creative, I think it's also important to take a step back and think about your content as well. So yes, implement this, you know, fast content, quick to get out, but where you can, and the time scale allows it, or the passion project that you're working on allows it, or the budget that the client has, and you can, you know, really take a step back and think, how can I make this piece better? How can I make this piece mean more to me and then mean more to other people? You know, these are the reasons we get into these kind of crafts, is because we want to tell stories. We want to create the best piece of content that we can. And, you know, as I said, like the way videography is, it's not always possible, but we can try as much as we can to implement more and more of that every time. And that kind of brings me to where I'm at now in my career. I feel like I've done the young hustling of, you know, taking every job I can and working on every little different thing, doing a wedding here, a family photography shoot over there, working out what my niche is, saying yes to everything and creating all that content and fast. And I've kind of perfected that area of what I do, and I can turn those out, and that's my bread and butter. You know, it keeps the food on the plate sort of thing. But where I'm at now is I want to try and expand on certain ideas and tell bigger stories. Something I did last year was we created a documentary, 40-minute feature length, about the band that we were actually working with at the time. And this was a big achievement for us. We had never taken on a piece of content as long as that. Normally the content that our production company specialized in was sort of 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute, you know, short posts that are snappy and what I've been talking about and engaging. But we took on this big project of creating a feature documentary for the band and their kind of journey to get to where they did. And I just remember the whole experience being, you know, completely eye-opening to me, and being like, this is what I want to do long term. Like, this is why I got into this. I got into this to tell bigger stories, and to be a part of bigger productions, you know, hopefully one day feature films, things like that. And they're the things that you really do take the time on. They're the really big passion projects. So thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed the session. I wanted to try and touch on something a little bit different to everything else that's on the platform, but obviously go and check everything else out. There's some really great talkers here, so it's been an absolute pleasure to be a part of this. So thank you to the Photography and Video Show. I believe we're going to have a Q&A now, which I'll be tuning in for. So yeah, I guess any questions you have at all, drop me in. But if you guys want to check in and see what I'm doing with my work, feel free to follow me. That's at Shot by Champ on Instagram. And if you want to see some of the projects that my company's been up to, Foley and the Champ, whether it's corporates, music videos, our own sort of creative projects that we create, that's foleyandthechamp.com. Thank you very much, guys. See you in the Q&A. Hi, everyone. Thank you for watching my session. Hope everyone is well. So I've got some Q&A answers that have come through. I hope everyone enjoyed that and you guys all learned something from that. So I'm just going to jump over to the questions. Sorry if I don't get a chance to get to everyone's, but hopefully we will. Should be fine. Just bear with me one sec whilst I load them up. Okay, so we got a question from Lottie. So I'm just going to read it out just so everyone knows where I am. So, hi Alex, I'm interested in venturing into the filmmaking industry. You mentioned that your fellow filmmakers are self-taught. Would you say it would be ideal to take a course to learn the basics, then once they are grasped, experiment more and figure it out yourself? Or would you recommend just diving in head first? Okay, so first of all, great question. Obviously, I mentioned a little bit in the talk that I myself didn't actually go to film school, and a lot of my friends and people who I work with and know, they didn't either, which is definitely an interesting sort of thing to look at in the industry, because there are a lot of great film schools out there, and that is definitely, you know, a respected route to go down. There's nothing wrong with doing that. It's just, it is a creative industry, and I think you don't necessarily need to go down that route if it doesn't feel like it's for you. For me, I didn't see the benefit of sitting in a classroom for 3 years and learning sort of all these things you need to learn for a camera. I thought it would be much better to get out on sets and have like hands-on experience and be able to actually be picking up cameras, being on sets, and, you know, whether it was running, you know, being a boom operator, anything that I could just, you know, jump into on set and learn firsthand. That for me is much more beneficial. And the way the internet is these days, there's so many different forms of being able to learn, you know, different aspects. Of course, there's courses like you mentioned, Lottie, in your question. But YouTube, like, there's so much out there that is just free, and, you know, that you're able to access. I think it's the kind of thing that if you want to learn it, you will search it and find a way to work out how to do it. So to answer your question a little bit better, like in more depth, I would say definitely, you know, find a course or something that you can be doing, whether that's a free online YouTube course or someone that you found who obviously works quite heavily in the industry. If they've got a course and you've searched into it, that's definitely going to only aid what you're doing. But at the same time, jump into it. Like, if this is really what you want to do and what you want to be creating, the best way to learn is to just jump into it head first, and, you know, kind of, you know, take things off as you go, sort of thing. So, you know, literally as you're going, you're solving all those problems. Oh, I don't know how to, you know, film in slow-mo, but I'm learning, I'm picking up the camera. Oh, okay, you do it like this, and you'll only get better with practice. So the more you just kind of pick that stuff up and get running with it, that alongside, you know, sat down learning, mixture of the two, is really going to benefit you long term. That's kind of how I went into it. Like I said, I didn't go to film school. I just sort of picked up a camera and started from there. It was more the passion that came first, and then the education side of it, and like learning how to make this into a living is what came sort of second. So hopefully that answers that a little bit clearer. So I've got a question here from Christopher. Do you shoot in 4K and then crop in a lot? Yeah, so good question. So I have a range of different cameras, all that have different capabilities. So I have my most preferred camera, which I'm very fortunate to have, which is a Red Dragon X, and that actually shoots at 6K. So often I do shoot at 6K and then, like you said, crop in when I'm editing in post, so that I can have a mixture of sort of two angles. So if I'm doing kind of like a talking head thing and I'm filming it like an interview 6K, then I have the capabilities of cropping in to 4K 1080 in post if I need to do that. So that's quite a good way of hiding, you know, little errors or things that happen within a shoot. If you don't have the option of having, you know, two cameras to cut between, that is sometimes, you know, a saving grace of being able to cut in between those two angles. So that is, it is beneficial, like you said, to shoot at 4K and then crop in. A lot of what we do video wise these days, people only need 1080p. So, you know, all this filming at 4K, 6K, 8K, what we end up doing anyway is just compressing it right down into 1080p and uploading that onto the internet. So I think if, file sizes, things like that are a worry for you, and you don't have, enough money to say buy all the backups of like all the drives and everything like that, there's nothing wrong with filming in 1080p, and to save storage that way. But obviously you won't have that option of being able to crop in. So I would recommend, having like a 4K capability. My other cameras that I have are just two Sonys and two Canons, and they all have 4K capability, which I do crop in to 1080 if I need to, at times. But it's not essential. Like I said, if you've only got 1080p, if you shoot at that, just you can't really crop in from there. But you know that if that's all you have, then there's nothing wrong with that. So I got a question from CK Morrison. So hello Alex, UK-based photographer here. Out of interest, do you prefer finding your composition in camera, or do you recommend fixing it in post? Okay, yeah, cool question. So for years I was just like, fix it in post, which isn't necessarily the best thing to be doing. You always want to kind of lock off your shot in the camera. Like you want to get it, best composition in shot. You want to get it best exposure. Literally, think of it as if you didn't have the capabilities to edit it and this is all it could look like, then that's what you want to go for. Sure, we're very lucky to have the capabilities of editing in post, and I think the term shouldn't be fix it in post, it should be aid it in post. So you capture what you need, and then if you want to enhance that and make it a little bit better, that's when you do it in post. So yeah, try to avoid that sort of attitude of, just fix it in post. You really get into the habit and the craft of perfecting it in camera, and then, in post to aid it. So that covers that a little bit. So I got a question here from Joe. I run, sorry, just speeding up a little bit because I've got running out of time. I run a very local Uniseco project and don't have great skills or equipment, but need to create more content. What are some basics to bear in mind? Okay, Joe. So, I mean, first of all, if you need content, there are people like us out there, so hi. But if you're looking at doing that yourself, then of course, I think the main thing to think about is not worry about what equipment you have or skills. Like I said, those things can be learned over time, and the equipment that you have, if you're investing in this, is only going to get better and better. But you need to start somewhere, right? So even if you have like a phone or a laptop, the main thing that's important is your story. So if you need to convey a message to people and get it out there, think of what the story is and capture that. So could it be something that you could do over Zoom? Could you be having a talk with someone on Zoom and just record that on your computer and use that as some sort of piece to aid your company? Or whether it's just you on your phone and it's you just quickly film yourself in a scenario of something that's going on, and it's just a way of conveying that story to people out there, because that's the most important thing, is the story. People invest in the story. Sure, all these like nice shots and crisp audio and all these things are only going to aid it and make people watch it more, but if people invest in the story, then that's all that matters first. So don't be scared about the equipment that you have and starting like that. And as I said, if you need people to help, just feel free to reach out. Okay, so Jay, you said you edit on a laptop. Do you still back up your footage in the field? If you do, what do you use? Okay, great question. Just going to speed it up a little bit more. I've got 2 minutes left. So I saw that question come in and I grabbed some stuff from my desk. So on my laptop, I have two hard drives Velcro to the back. So I can quickly just plug in a hard drive. So I have two hard drives on the back. Basic hard drives, really cheap ones that just back up the footage in the field. And what I'll also do is back it up to an SSD. So these are really quick to edit off and super easy. And these are a little bit more expensive, but they speed up your editing a lot. So like I said, I back up straight away onto the hard drives Velcro to the back of my laptop. And then when I get home, I will have another port and I will back up to a big hard drive. So it exists in more than one place. So my laptop is always going with me and everything exists on these. So I've got those with me, they always travel. So if there was ever, a fire or someone broke into my flat and stole all my hard drives, I've got another backup somewhere else that isn't in the same location. And that's really important. So big ones, back up everything at home, small ones on the go, on the laptop. So yeah, and as soon as you get in, back up. I always say the rule: your footage doesn't exist unless it exists in more than one place. So just bear with me. Got 49 seconds left on the clock. Just try and get one more in. What backpack to use? I saw that question come in and quickly grab the backpack. I don't know the exact name, and I will message you in the chat. But I use this one here, and best thing about this is that the back opens from this side, so it opens up into the bag from the back. Which, so if you're wearing it, because I've had this in the past, people can't open it and try and steal things from the front. I've actually had that happen to me. So the best thing about this one is that it opens from the back. So if you're wearing it, nothing can happen. You know, especially if you're traveling around and filming and stuff, you want to have that sort of capability. But I'll message you, Richard, in the chat as to answer that one. 5 seconds left. Thank you very much, everyone, for my chat. I'll message all your questions as well.